I've had my Lumix S5II for over 2 years now, but there are still features of it that I have never taken advantage of, and I'm wondering if I'm missing out on something cool. One of those features is the many color profiles you can choose from. I think I counted 18 options you can select, and in the last 2 years, I've used exactly 3 of them. For a while, I was only using the natural color profile, and then recently I have tried to expand my horizons into shooting in Vlog and the Realtime LUT. So today what I want to do is test out all of those color profiles and see if there's a couple of them that I want to start using more. When I first got this camera, I was pretty new to the whole professional level camera system situation. So there were a lot of things about it that overwhelmed me, and I was looking for recommendations for the simple things, like what color profile to use. I knew that eventually I'd want to shoot in Vlog to take advantage of all of the camera's, dynamic range capabilities, but I wasn't ready to take that step. So I found a guy on YouTube, Caleb Hoover. He does mostly Lumix camera content, and he recommended using the natural profile with a couple of tweaks to the saturation and contrast. So I copied his settings and never looked back. I've used that for probably 90% of the content I've shot with this camera. But this camera is a pretty powerful tool, and it's got a lot of aspects to it that I have not yet explored. So that's what I'm doing today, expanding my color profile horizons. So first up, let's try out the standard profile. This one's pretty basic. I don't expect to learn too much here, but let's give it a shot, see how it differs from the natural profile. Another area that I'm expanding my horizons lately is in the field of golf. So comment below any tips you have for me. Possibly I should get a golf bag, possibly I should get more than 3 clubs. All those things are on the table. All right, we're now in the flat color profile, which I have, again, never used. I've not shot a second of video with this color profile, but I will say with some of these profiles that kind of are designed to have some color grading applied, like I think flat, the Cinelike D2 and V2 ones we're gonna get to in a minute, then obviously like Vlog, which has to be color corrected. With those ones, I'll show what it looks like straight out of camera, and then I'll also show like with some contrast and saturation applied as well. So here we are in the flat color profile. Let's see what we think. At the bottom of it on that one. Oh. Over there, not great. Not liking the portrait color profile so far. It's not treating my swing well. All right, 7 profiles down, 11 to go. Another thing we'll have going on as we get into some of these profiles is the ISO ranges change. So the base ISO and the natural and standard profile, ooh, it's windy, is 100. And in Vlog and the Realtime LUT it's 640, but I think in some of these it's like 200 for the low end of the ISO range. So we'll be adjusting some exposure as we go along to account for that as well. One of the things I didn't know when first using this camera was just that there's different, I knew it had a dual native ISO, but I didn't know that like there were different ranges and different color profiles. In Vlog, the dual native is 640 and 4000, and the Rec 709 or natural profiles, standard profile, it's 100 and 640 are the two thresholds of the dual native ISO. Not something I learned today, but something that I didn't know when I first got the camera. Another thing we have going on today is some serious wind gusts, which if I was even moderately good at golf, might be a big deal for my game. I don't think it's gonna make much difference. We're now entering the most fun part of the day, the ball hunting phase. Always a win in my book when you can hit 7 balls down the field, walk around, scavenge a little bit, and find 7 balls. Even if they aren't the 7 that you hit, you're doing something right. A couple little notes I'll make before hitting these all back the other way. I am shooting on my Freewell V2 ND filter, which is a fairly color accurate filter. Doesn't have a real serious color cast that I've noticed or that I've heard anybody talk about, but just something to know that could affect colors a little bit. I'm shooting at 5600 Kelvin at golden hour. That might be a little warm on the lighting, but just getting a nice baseline for all these color profiles. I'm less concerned about how the colors look and more just like, do I like the feel of it? Does it feel like it's gonna tell a story in certain applications? That kind of thing. Anyway, let's hit these back the other way. go. I think there's definitely value in doing this kind of thing, even if, as in my case, I really never plan on shooting in monochrome. Just, you know, taking advantage, trying out everything your camera has, makes you more familiar with it, makes you more comfortable. Yeah, and then, you know, if I ever did want to shoot in monochrome, I would kind of know what to expect, know how it works. I mean, the exposure is a little bit different, it seems like. I don't know how white balance works in monochrome. Probably doesn't do anything. What I don't know is there some benefit to shooting black and white in camera as opposed to desaturating in post to make it black and white? Comment below if you know something about that. In my eyes, I would think I definitely want to shoot in color, so if I want to use it as color, I could. Then just make it black and white in post if I want to use that effect. Is there something to be gained by shooting black and white in camera? Let me know in the comments. Left. One of these profiles I'm most curious about is this Like 709 profile. I don't really know what that means. It still has the same 100 and 640 dual native ISO shelves, so it's not actually in Vlog. So yeah, I'm kind of curious what it looks like. There it is. So here we are in Vlog, and the base ISO has now jumped up to 640, so I need to crank down my exposure a bit. Try right about there. And like I said, I've already done a basic correction LUT on this, but what I also want to do is compare between LUT corrected Vlog, which is what this is, and what I'm going to do next, which is the real-time LUT with just the default correction LUT in camera. I'm expecting they should be identical because real-time LUT is Vlog based, but I'm not really sure. Let's find out. And profile number 18 is this HLG 2100. I don't really know what this is. I think it's some kind of HDR image, but I'm gonna brighten this up a little bit and yeah, see how this looks. It looks like the colors are much more saturated than in real-time LUT, which makes sense. All right, we are back home in the natural color profile. There are also My Photo Styles settings. There are 4 of them that you can configure yourself. I don't actually know too much about these. I haven't done the research, but those are not configured. I haven't done any of those. So I skipped over those. Technically, I guess there'd be 22 picture profile settings options if you were to count those. But obviously, I can't really tell what colors look like what, except the black and white ones look black and white, out here on my little tiny camera monitor. So I'm gonna go back to the office, get these into DaVinci Resolve, check them out, see what colors are looking good, see what has a good feel to it. I'll catch up with you over there. All right, so I'm back at the office, checking these out on the monitor, and really learning a lot about what these different profiles do. And I'm surprised I never have shot anything in most of these before. It's weird. I don't know why I've never done this before. So starting off with the standard profile, it looks pretty good. Like, this is a profile I would definitely consider using. It just has all the saturation and contrast that you need in there, and it just looks good. It seems that the portrait profile and my go-to natural profile are pretty similar. Portrait seems just a little bit warmer, but I would definitely consider using portrait a little bit more in the future. The flat profile definitely has the saturation pulled back a little bit, and it looks a lot like the natural profile when I add a little bit of saturation and contrast back in. Now, I know why you would shoot in a flatter profile is to be able to do what you want to with the colors and contrast and saturation rather than whatever is baked into the image. But for 90% of the work I do, that missing contrast and saturation is just going to be adjustments that I'm going to add right back in when I get into the edit. For most of what I do, I'm not really going for a specific look. I'm just trying to make the footage look, happy and cheerful, bring up the saturation so it looks, pleasant. So I don't see too much point of shooting in flat as opposed to going all in with like Vlog or the real-time LUT. And the same kind of goes for that Like 2100 HLG profile that I messed around with. I still haven't explored that one totally. As near as I can tell, that is kind of like a halfway point between standard profiles and log. So it has more dynamic range. HLG stands for, I forget what HLG stands for, let's see. Okay, HLG stands for hybrid log gamma. So it's sort of a hybrid profile, but I don't really see why I would shoot in that as opposed to vlog. The L Classic Neo one is a pretty interesting one, and I didn't really know this was a profile you could use. It's definitely like a 50s sort of classic look to the footage. So this would be useful if you were, you know, shooting some kind of retro style film or footage. Not something I would see myself doing in camera, because you could just apply a LUT or just make these adjustments to the color. It looks like it kind of goes in the teal direction, washes out the highlights and stuff like that. Like, you could totally do that in color correction after the fact. So I don't think I would shoot this way in camera. The vivid and landscape profiles, definitely more contrasty, definitely more saturated, and I don't think I'm ever going to use those for shooting video. I will note that, as far as I know, these profiles, maybe with the exception of like one or two, like the HLG one maybe, but they should all be available in photo shooting as well. And maybe I would use the landscape profile when shooting, you know, landscape photography or something. I don't know. I'd probably think to do all of my saturation and stuff like that in post for photos as well. But yeah, for video, vivid and landscape are out for me. One that is not out though is Cinelike D2. This one is interesting. I used to shoot in Cinelike D all the time on my Lumix G85, and I shot everything in that. I only rarely went into the standard profile, and that camera doesn't have vlog, so I was trying to get you know, into something I could maybe try to mess around with color grading more than just a standard profile. So I shot in Cinelike D a ton, and I don't know why I never really tried using that on this camera. When I got it, it's definitely flatter. I feel like it looks kind of similar to vlog after a correction LUT is applied, so also kind of similar to the Realtime LUT. Feels like it might have a little bit more filmic look to it, so maybe Cinelike, hence the name. So I'd like to mess around with that some more. I didn't like Cinelike V2 as well. I'm not really sure what the V and D mean, but the V2 seemed to have more of an actual look applied. I felt it was a little bit more contrasty, just not my favorite look. So Cinelike D2, definitely want to get back to that, but V2, maybe not so much. The Realtime LUT I've been shooting on a bunch lately, trying to get familiar with it, because I discovered I actually really like the look of vlog footage when it's been corrected. It just has a much more, I don't know, the texture of it seems to be more cinematic to me somehow. So I was trying to shoot more in the Realtime LUT since it's based on that vlog footage, but there's been something about the colors of it that just don't seem quite right to me. It's hard to put my finger on it, but just kind of a feeling I have about it that I'm just not thrilled with. So I might want to try a different correction LUT in camera for the Realtime LUT and see if that kind of makes them look better to me. I don't know, it's not like they're bad, it's just I have this kind of feeling about it. It's just like, it's not perfect. But Realtime LUT, I definitely will be shooting more in that. Oh yeah, all the monochrome profiles, I don't know much about those. I felt like I liked the L Monochrome D the best, but toss up with those. I don't really know what I'm looking at when it comes to monochrome. If you guys are into monochrome shooting, like I said, comment below, let me know anything you can about it. And if there's a reason why I wouldn't just shoot color and desaturate in post, let me know in the comments. So if I was shooting for a client who I would be delivering the B-roll to, and they would have, you know, a potential to see the raw footage, I would strongly consider shooting in standard or portrait color profiles, because those I feel like look completely fine straight out of camera. Like, they have all the contrast and saturation they need, and I could deliver that footage knowing that it looks good. I wouldn't have to make any edits to it. Natural, and then of course obviously flat and Cinelike D and those other ones, they, I feel like, need some amount of saturation added back to make them look really nice. But what I've learned here so far is Caleb Hoover's my guy, and he made a good recommendation. Natural is, I think, still my favorite color profile. So will I be switching to a different go-to picture profile? No, not for the foreseeable future, but did I learn something about my camera? Yes, and I'm very glad I did this little experiment. I think this is definitely valuable for me to experiment with these picture profiles. I hope you guys found value in the video, and if you did so, be sure to hit the like button down below. Next up, you can check out this video where I talk about my top 10, I only have 5 fingers here, but top 10 favorite features of my Lumix S5II. So I'll see you guys over there.